Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to use the Holtz Ranger Distress Spray Stains with a little bit of the micas put in there. So I don't like to have dirty fingers if I can help it, so I wear gloves, plus it irritates my skin if I don't. And then I have my splat box that I got from Holtz. And you can put it this way or this way. For my purposes today, I'm gonna have the longer side down. You can tell it's well loved. And then I just have a few sheets of paper towels to absorb all the extra ink. And I have my Ranger Heat It tool and my Ranger Distress spray bottle. So these are all the things you're gonna need today in order to make a really fun distress watercolor background. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to use my Holtz leaf embossing folder to make a really pretty fall card. And I also have my Holtz phrases for the sentiments. So let's get started. So I'm gonna make a few different colors today because when I have all of my sprays out and everything, I don't wanna just make one thing. I want to make a batch of things. You can tell I have old projects here, and you can use the raised side or the flat side, but because we want texture, because it is fall and I wanna make leaves, I'm gonna use the textured side. So we're gonna start off by putting one paper in the middle of our splat box, and I like to turn it because I'm spraying like this, not like this. So I want it to mist like this instead of all wonky and sideways. So the first thing you want to do with your paper is you want to get it wet. You don't want to soak it, you just want to get it damp, and that will help the stain to absorb into the paper. So I want to make my first one like a really pretty orange gold with some red in there. So let's see, I'm just going to pull out the few colors that I have for that I want to use. Let's see, I have a lot of colors over here. I think that might work. Add in a little bit of yellow and a little bit of burnt orange. Okay, so this is kind of going to be the color palette for this card. Now we're not going to do it all at once and create mud. You're going to have to do this in levels and layers. Now for the mica stains, you can see how there's that mica all stuck to the bottom there because I store them standing up. So I'm just going to turn this on its side so it can start absorbing into the liquid here. And then when I'm ready to use it, it'll be much easier to shake and break up all that mica. And I'm going to do that with the other ones I have over here for our other colors. So that should just help us get a head start. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit more water, and let's start with spiced marmalade. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your spray stain, depending how much you want on it is how close or how far away you spray it. So I'm about that far away from the paper. I'm just going to give it a little squirt. I like that, but I definitely want more. So I'm just gonna go ahead and squirt wherever I feel like there's color. I think that's good. And then I take the nozzle and wipe it off, and then put the lid back on and set it aside so I know what colors I haven't used compared to what colors I have. And so I'm liking how that's looking. It's still splotchy, but it is absorbed enough that it spreads. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dry this, and that will give us our base layer, and that way anything else we spray on top of it will actually be a separate layer, and that's what gives it depth and dimension so it doesn't combine and create mud. So I'm gonna use my Heat It tool and dry this off really fast. Now you can see how some spots didn't want to dry that well. So all you need to do is take your paper towel and just dab at those spots. You could continue to dry them, but I want to dab at it because it does create this beautiful wicking motion and just creates all these different levels to that one color. So now I want to add a little bit of the yellow. So I'm going to use mustard seed. And the spray stains you don't need to shake. You only need to shake the micas and the oxides. Okay, so I want to get this down in that corner area and then up here and maybe a little bit right there. Then I wipe this off and set it aside. Now for this one, I do want it to blend a little bit more, so I'm just going to give it a little squirt and then just kind of manipulate where that goes. But you don't want these rivers on either side, so what you're going to do is just bend it and tap so you get all that mud and river off of the edges, so you don't have this big buildup of color. And then we'll just dry that layer. And again, you just take this and dab off those few spots that didn't dry quite fast enough. And well, I am going to dry this part one last time here. Okay, now you notice how I have a white spot down here. I'm going to turn this way so I can get more color over here. So now I'm going to use wild honey, and that's a mix between orange and yellow. I'm going to do that up in the corner there and then down here, and then I'm going to back this up and just give it a little squirt, and that'll give it those big drips. And then wipe this off, set it aside, and dry. And this is already looking really beautiful. Okay, let's add a little bit of red into it. So I'm going to use Fired Brick. And this one I just kind of want to mist. So I'm just going to go back because I don't want it to look like a crime scene. I wiped it off. I am going to squirt it a little bit just so it blends in. And this is all water reactive. So when you squirt it, all the colors will reactivate and blend together. So you don't want to soak it because then it will turn into a muddy mess. But I do want it to blend more. So I am going to reactivate certain parts of this card. There we go. And then I'm just going to manipulate the direction I want that to go in. Dab off those little rivers there. Squirt a little more here. Dab that off. Oh, I like that. Looks good. So now we will dry that. Okay, so now we have this really blended part and all this splotchy stuff here. Don't worry about that, because right now what we're doing is building up layers, and then we can adjust how it looks. So I'm going to add some Rusty Hinge, which is a pretty orange brown. And I'm going to stipple it over that spot and then do more of a fine mist on that side. There we go. Oh, I love, love, love that. Okay, let's dry this. Okay, now I do want a little bit of brown. So I'm going to use my antique bronze. But notice how the mica is still there. That's because I didn't turn it on its side, so it hasn't blended like this one. So what we're gonna do is shake it up. It has a little, I don't remember what they're called. It has a little ball in it that will break up all the mica and blend it with the liquid. So you can shake it side to side, up to down, up and down. Side to side is usually best. But I do this because I need it to mix. I'll do a little bit more. And there you go. You can see how it has mixed all of that. So now we can give it a little spray. And this will also give it some shine. Now see, I don't like how that squirted out in lines like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use my water to squirt over those areas, and then I can manipulate where I want it to go. And then it will get blended into the background. It's gonna be so pretty. And you see how I still have the splotches? It's because we're building up layers. You can always take away using water, and you can always add using color. See how it's just blended into the background nicely? What I'm gonna do while it's still wet is I'm going to add my Burning Ember mica stain, and that's gonna give it the most gorgeous red-brown glitter effect. So I'm just shaking that up. There we go, it's all mixed. Look how gorgeous. So that's Burning Ember. And we'll just give it a good squirt there. Okay, oh, see, I love how that turned out. Look how gorgeous that is. Just like the perfect autumn orange. Okay, so let me dry this while it's still beautifully blended. Now, I don't know if you can see the shimmer in that at all, but I don't like how we just have this river right there. So I'm gonna add some more stuff to kind of give it a little bit more splotchy so it looks like a leaf. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of this wild honey. And I'm barely pushing on the nozzle just so I get the splotchiness. All right, and we'll dry that. Okay, so I definitely need some more of this right here. But since I don't want a big old streak, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squirt some into my glove here, mix it with water, and then I'm just gonna take my fingers and just kind of flick it on. Oh, I need more. And this is another reason why I like to wear gloves. Okay. You can flick and clap and see how it's got little spots on there. Looks much better than the streaky. So now I'm gonna wipe my hands off and then dry this. Okay, and you'll notice sometimes I dry it facing down and other times I'll pick it up. If you pick it up, it dries faster because the air flows through the paper instead of trying to fight with whatever is behind the paper. It's just a different method you can use. Okay, so I like the color, but I don't like the style. So what I'm gonna do, let me wipe this off, is I'm gonna take my water bottle. I'm barely gonna push on this and it's gonna create water droplets. And then I'm gonna let those wick out and it creates the coolest effect. The less you pull back on it, the bigger the droplets. And then the harder you pull back, the smaller. So you can see how they're starting to oxidize this dye, absorb the color, and then wick out. Now you can dry it like this if you want, but the better thing to do, let me grab another paper towel. A better thing to do is let it sit on there for a little bit. And then you're gonna take your paper towel, you just dab it off, and it has these cool little wet spots that look like age marks. And now we're gonna dry it because I love the way that that just enhanced it times 1,000. Okay, so once we put this through our embossing folder and create all the little leaf nodges and veins and everything, it's just going to make this really come alive. So now that we've done our orange one, let's move on to red and still greenish. And so I just flip this over and use the other side. Because even if this does get on the back, it's not going to matter because we're not using the back. Okay, and because it's for a leaf, we want the rough side. Lay this down, squirt it. Let that absorb a little bit. All right, now I'm going to get all my colors over to this side that I want to use. I'm going to start off with a lighter color and then work my way into the dark, more brooding colors. So we're going to start off with crushed olive. This is a beautiful green. So I'm just going to kind of squirt and dry. And then again, we'll just dab off those bigger wet spots there. And I do like how this white is blending nicely with the green. So I am going to leave some white spots in there just to give it some more dimension. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to peeled paint. And this one I just want to use for the splatter because it is pretty dark. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. Love it. Okay, let's dry that. Okay, and now these big ones didn't want to dry, but I don't want to dab those. I'm just going to flip this around and, oh, sorry, flip this around this way and let them dry while I mix the other colors in. So now I'm going to do Mowed Lawn. This is a really bright, pretty green, almost like a Christmassy green. And I'm going to touch more in that way. It's going to be like the rule of 3. You kind of want it separate from each other, but then it all blends together. So now I don't want this to be that splotchy, so I am going to use my water and blend this a little bit more, which is why I'm fine with those not being all the way dry yet. I'm just guiding the color in the directions that I want it to go. Still focusing on keeping a little bit of white here and there, dabbing off the little rivers. Ah! Okay, oh, I like that, looks good. Now I am gonna add, whoop, oh my gosh, I didn't have the lid on that all the way. I am gonna add a little bit more peeled paint here, just to give it that rule of 3. Now because it's wet, it is gonna blend more, but it pulls in the richness of that color. It'll all come together in the end. Just wait and see. All right, let's dry this. Now that it's dry, I am gonna add one more little splotch back in that section. And this is why you want the splat box, because I splatted it off to the side. So that's a good thing I got in the box, we're good. Dry that. Okay, now we're gonna add an unexpected color into this. Seedless Preserves, a dark purple. I like that when this is blended with water, it makes the green just that much more chef's kiss. You'll see what I mean. It's not too much. It just gives it that extra something. I'm just gonna get that wet. Ooh, see how pretty that is? Makes it look like it's turning into fall. I love how that blends with the green. It's so pretty. Okay, let's dry this. Isn't that so pretty? It looks like a leaf changing into a fall color. Oh, I love it. Okay, now we need to add some shimmer, and I have Holly Branch mica stain and Crooked Broomstick mica stain. I'm gonna start with Crooked Broomstick because it's a brown, like a golden brown, and then I will add in a little bit of this green shimmer from Holly Branch. So we need to shake these up. Okay, and we got all the mica off the bottom there. That's good. It's a stainless steel ball. That's what it is. Couldn't think of it. Okay, so this is Crooked Broomstick. And I'm just gonna squirt this on like so. All right. And that gives it that deep richness of it going into fall. I am going to do some little water droplets as well with that, just so the shimmer doesn't overwhelm the entire card. I'll let that sit for a minute. Then we go in with the paper towel, just dab that, like that. Oh my heck, isn't that gorgeous? Okay, now we're gonna dry this. Okay, now we're gonna take some Holly Branch and do the same thing. I'm just gonna squirt a little bit. Okay. And this time I'm gonna keep it like that. I'm not gonna blend it in. So let's dry that. That doesn't wanna dry. I'm just gonna dab that. There we go. Okay. It needs like some crisp. So let's add a little bit of mustard seed. Just add a little bit of yellow into this. Just something to brighten it up a little bit. Tone down the shimmer just a tad. All right, I like that. Okay, and then the same thing, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna dab this a little bit. Okay. And then I'm gonna go back in with the, let's see, which one do I wanna use? A little bit of the peeled paint. So we definitely want it a little darker for fall. And then crushed olive. Okay, and because we've been drying it in between, you're not getting this brown muck. It's like this really dimensional piece of art. That's what I call them. They're pieces of art. Now this could even make a really pretty Christmas tree background. Like, it's just gorgeous. But you can leave it like this, or you can add the splotches. I like the splotched look because to me, it just gives it that little something right at the end. It just finishes it, in my opinion. So let's do some big splotches, medium ones, and some smaller ones. Okay, let that sit for a minute. And if you don't like doing this with the squirt bottle, you can always flick it with your fingers or a splatter brush, whatever you're comfortable using. Okay, that's good. We're just gonna dab that off, lift that up, and look how gorgeous that is. And the longer you let it sit, the more it will wick out and absorb the color, so you get the lighter versions of the splotches. I like how it looks now, so I'm gonna go ahead and dry that. Voila, and now you have this really unique piece you can run through an embossing folder, you can use for die cutting, anything you want. It's a little piece of art. So now let's do our red. Okay, and I'm doing the textured side. Squirt your paper. I'm actually gonna flip this inside out. Okay. See how I got a little bit of color on there? You will never see that. Don't worry about it. Okay, squirt that again. Let me get my reds over here. So we are going to start off with our lightest red, which is Barn Door. And this is like such a beautiful red. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love that color. All right, so actually, you know what? For this one, I'm going to blend it a little more on the edges. So I've showed you how to do the splotchy. I'm going to show you how to do the blend. The more water you add, the bigger the blend you'll get. The more rivers you'll have to wipe off. Okay, let's dry this. You'll notice how the paper has curled. Don't worry about that. Paper does not have a memory. You can fold it right back. It's fine. So this is a more blended, smooth, seamless look. So let's keep going with that. So next I want to use Lumberjack Plaid, which is like the ultimate Christmas red. Oh, I actually love the splatter of this with the barn door under it. Oh, I love this. Okay, with reds you have to be careful because you don't want it to look like a crime scene, which is why the more you blend them the better, but this actually looks really cool. So I am going to keep it like this. So I'm going to dry this. Okay. Oh, I love those colors together. Okay, now we're going to add one called Fired Brick. Oh, wow. Look at that color. Oof, that is pretty. Now this one I do want to blend a little bit more. Do you see how the splotches still stay on that bottom layer even though we squirted it? Some of them are going to blend out just because of all the water we used, but most of them are going to stay put because we dried in between each layer. It does make a big difference. So you can just build level upon level, layer upon layer, just build, build, build. And sometimes you're going to look at your project and go, oh my gosh, I totally ruined it. What have I done? That's too much. Set it aside and you'll come back to it and be like, oh, I love that. That's going to be so great for blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's dry this. Oh, beautiful. Oh, look at that. That is so pretty. Okay, so now we're going to add Tart Cranberry Mica Stain. This will give it that red shimmer. We got to shake it up first and loosen up all that mica. That's such a fun sound too. Okay, look at how gorgeous and deep and ruby that red is. Woo! All right, let's squirt some of that on. Oh my gosh, look how cute it made a little heart. Oh, love it even more. Okay, so I really like that. Let's just give it a little squirt here. Just a little bit. Looks good. All right, let's dry that. Okay, I am loving this. This is gorgeous. Do I want to add a little bit of brown? Let me look through my colors. I think I want to add just a tiny hint of Rusty Hinge. That's that orange brown. Just a little bit. Just enough to give it some splatter. And bring it to life. All right. Ooh, and how it absorbs into that red. Oh, that looks so good. All right, we'll dry that layer. Oh yeah, that added so much. Look how gorgeous. Okay, so now we can leave it like this. You can use this for anything really, or we can add some splatter. I'm gonna add splatter just because I like the way that it elevates the paper. I'm not gonna do as many big drips on this one though. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of personality with some splatter. There will be some big drips, but not as many as our last two. Trying to do smaller ones. And I'm not gonna let them sit on there as long, so that should also help. Okay. Oh yes, oh I love that. Let's give it a little bit more of those small drips. Okay, and let's dry it. Okay, and there's our beautiful red. How gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I love this. It's so pretty. Okay, let's run it through an embossing folder so we can show you the finished product. And I could do this for hours with a million different colors. I love it. Okay, so now we have our 3 works of art that we've created. I'm setting these two aside because I have other projects I want to do with these. But we are going to turn this into this beautiful leaf pattern. So we're only going to need those 2 layers of our platform. And I have a Big Shot Switch Plus from Sizzix, pink. You can only get it through scrapbook.com. And so for that, I use the bottom platform layer and then my embossing folder and then one of the acrylic plates. Oh my gosh, my mind just blanked out. Now, if you want to add just a little bit extra pizzazz, what you can do is you can take the top of your embossing folder, whatever the pretty side is going to be on. You can take your water bottle, you can squirt it, and that will distribute some of the ink and it will actually make the veins a bit more pronounced. It's gonna make it look so cool. So I'm just gonna set it down, kind of centered here, close it, kind of push that in, let that water seep in. Because remember, water will reactivate the ink. Okay, then we're just gonna run it through. These big, thick folders, this is the best way to get the best impression. Run it through and back again. And that will give you a double impression. And here we are. Voila, our beautiful leaf pattern made with distress spray stains and mica stains. And then you can also use this, you can die cut it, you can cut it into strips, whatever you want. You can use that as your card background. Just put a little sentiment on there, whatever you want to use it for. Here you go. Isn't that gorgeous? I hope you enjoyed today's Tuesday tutorial, and I will see you back here next Tuesday for another fun tutorial. Okay, love you, bye.